Welcome to the MattDanToddcast. I'm your host, Matt, but you can call me MattDanTodd for short. Welcome back, podcast world, land, galaxy, and happy Star Wars month. That's right, I said happy Star Wars month. From May 4th, which is Star Wars Day, to May 25th, which is Orthodox Star Wars Day. We got the whole month full of Star Wars festivities. Now, I know some people argue that every day is Star Wars Day, and that's probably right too, but we are definitely dedicating this month to all things Star Wars, and you probably should too. Now, we are a few weeks past May the 4th, Star Wars Day, and I hope you were able to celebrate that in style. Maybe you threw a couple of Nerf steaks on the grill and poured yourself a cold, refreshing cup of blue milk. Or maybe you spent the day wasting time with your friends at Tashi Station. Or bullseyeing womp rats in your T-16 back home. Or maybe you were trying to figure out how to put those ears back on that Gundark. I don't know. However you were able to spend that day, I hope it was a good one. Oh, and I also hope you got a chance to listen to the Star Wars Day Eve holiday special and the Star Wars Day holiday special right here on the MattDanToddcast. If you missed those, it's probably because you didn't subscribe. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss any more episodes of the MattDanToddcast. Go ahead. I'll wait. See, it didn't take that long. So today we have my friend Lori, whom I have known since middle school. I did get to know her during the dark times, right? The time in between the original trilogy and the release of the prequel trilogy, when there was very little new Star Wars content that came out at all. But I remember one day in middle school noticing that Lori was wearing a Star Wars shirt to school, and that was like unheard of. First of all, it was practically impossible to find Star Wars shirts at this time. No one was selling them. Very few people were producing them. It's not like today where you can order them online or just find them in almost any store, which is great. I love it. That's great. That's awesome. That we're able to continue to buy all of these Star Wars shirts and all the Star Wars merchandise. At that time, though, it was nearly impossible. And the fact that we were in middle school when everyone's trying to act like everyone else and no one is trying to stick out at all, it was a pretty bold statement to wear a Star Wars shirt. I don't think Lori realized how bold of a statement that was, but I thought it was pretty cool of her to wear a Star Wars shirt to school that day. And I've always known her as a big Star Wars fan, a big science fiction fan, and I really have enjoyed her insights over the years. I hope you'll enjoy our conversation today because I think it's pretty cool to hear from an English teacher about the impact that Star Wars has had on her and how that continues to influence her teaching today. So thanks for listening and enjoy this conversation with Lori. Lori, it's great to have you join me for this tiny little podcast that we call the MattDanToddcast because, it's all about me. So thanks for joining me today and to talk about one of my favorite things ever, and that's Star Wars. It's fitting since it's May, May the 4th, but also I like to call it Orthodox Star Wars Day, which is May 25th, which has been around a whole lot longer than than May 4th. So the month of May, it's all Star Wars all the time for me. And so I'm glad that you were willing to sit down with me for a few minutes and just kind of share your thoughts about a shared interest that we have. First of all, obviously, I know who you are, and I've known who you are for, we'll just say, a little while. But would you mind sharing what you'd like people to know about you?
My name is Lori Basham. I live in Southern Indiana, and I'm a teacher for middle school language arts. I've been a teacher for 25 years now. I've been
Wow.
married almost 26 years to my college sweetheart, Scott, who I know you know from high school.
Yeah,
So it all comes full circle. And I've
it
got
does.
two kids. One's a junior in college and another one's a junior in high school. So just living the dream every day.
Congratulations. And congratulations on 25 years of teaching too. That's no small accomplishment. So
Goes by fast.
yeah. So let's talk about Star Wars, right? Because that's what we're here to talk about. The first question I want to ask is, I mean, I know it's kind of like quietly deciding which one is your favorite child. Which Star Wars episode is your favorite?
It would have to be Return of the Jedi. And I think I've got a soft spot in my heart for that. That came out in 1983. I was 7. We were coming here to visit my sister in Evansville. We lived in North Dakota at the time. And my parents, on the way here, they took us to see Return of the Jedi. And my brother and I were so excited, so thrilled. I loved it, every minute of it. It was the best movie ever. As a 7-year-old, I was just so excited about all of it. And then we came to Evansville, and my sister's quite a bit older than I am. And she's like, hey, as a surprise, I'll take you to see Return of the Jedi.
Oh, that's
We,
awesome.
we did not say a word. We did not tell her we had already seen it. Because our parents left us with my sister while they went on a little trip together. So I saw it a second time. So I think really for me, it's the first Star Wars I remember actually seeing. I have vague memories of Empire Strikes Back. My parents taking me to see that when I was 4, which amazes me now. They're taking a 4-year-old to see that. But I just remember being grossed out by the whole Tauntaun, Luke Skywalker and the Tauntaun thing. So
Yep.
for me, Return of the Jedi, it's the first tangible memory I have of actually seeing Star Wars in a theater. And I just thought it was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
So I think I like that one the best because it's the one I have the most tangible memories of as a child.
I get that 100%. And I love that answer. I love that you watched it again without telling your sister about it and let her participate. Did you ever tell her? Did she ever find out?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We
So
told
this isn't
I mean, we're talking like 20 years later.
okay.
I live where she lives now, and so quite a few of the Star Wars movies since then we have gone to see together.
Okay.
Since
Well, that's
then.
a neat.
Yeah.
That's a neat family tradition to have.
That one of the coolest things that I did that reminds me of Return of the Jedi a few years ago, I donated something to the University of Southern Indiana's archive, and they actually had an original poster, but it said Revenge of the Jedi.
Oh, wow.
And the guy thought I was nuts. I had him take a picture of me with it.
Well, I would do that too. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh. He's like, really? I'm like, please, can I have, because he was showing me interesting things in the archive at the university. And I'm like, oh, can I please have a picture with this? And he was like, okay, all right. But to me, that was just like the icing on the cake.
That
They
is.
actually pulled that original poster.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I'm jealous. I'm totally jealous about that. So do you have a favorite character from the saga?
It's going to be Princess Leia.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, a little girl, if you wanted a strong female character, it was Wonder Woman, whom I loved, and it was Princess Leia. And there really wasn't a lot out there as far as that was concerned. Princess Leia, she didn't take anything from anybody. I remember watching Return of the Jedi and she's strangling Jabba the Hutt. And I'm like, it's awesome. She doesn't have somebody coming in here to rescue her necessarily. She's in here taking care of business by herself. And so as a kid, I played Star Wars with my brother. I always got the Princess Leia figures. If I didn't, I wouldn't play. And also, I hate to admit it, but as a little girl, she had awesome hair.
Well, she did.
So all the braids, all of that. I wanted my hair to look just like that. So, but I think just for a strong female character and a strong female presence in movies that just didn't really exist for little girls back when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You can watch She-Ra, Princess of Power on TV. Okay. Wonder Woman. She was there. I love Wonder Woman, but she was the first person female character in movies I remember just wanting to be her.
Yeah. I am not surprised by that at all. And she is such a strong character. And how did you feel about how they treated her in the sequel movies?
I was okay with it. I mean, you had to do something, especially, after she passed away.
Right.
I mean, that kind of, you got to do something there. So I was all right with it. I mean, I think I was more upset about Han Solo getting killed off.
Yeah.
So.
I get that too. So did Leia, I assume she's still your favorite character? Like
Yes.
there
Yep.
haven't been any new ones that
I
have been
have
released that.
my original Princess Leia figurine, the one that was from episode 4 that my brother
Uh-huh.
must have gotten for Christmas at some point before I can remember. She is sitting on a ledge in my classroom,
Oh, that's awesome.
and Princess Leia overlooks everybody every day. And the kids think it's funny. I show Star Wars every year in my classroom, episode 4, and
Well,
they
as an English teacher, it makes sense, right? Because there's
yeah,
so
it's
many.
all about epic myths. So we do
Yeah.
a whole study on what is an epic myth, and usually the week that school gets out, when the kids are kind of done, we study what is an epic myth, and then we watch episode 4, and they have to fill out a little thing explaining why it's an epic myth, which is always fun to do because you always have that one Star Wars expert in your classroom,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they fill it out before the movie even starts. And then everybody else is going to that kid to get the answers that they don't know.
Yeah.
Because I found usually when I show this now, I mean, well over half my kids have never seen it.
Yeah, and that's disappointing. I'm not surprised, but that is disappointing because it is
Right.
an amazing story to tell, and to experience. So I had the honor, I guess, in high school of introducing some of my friends to Star Wars, to Episode 4, and they jumped up and cheered at the end
Right.
when the Death Star explodes. Is that a spoiler? I mean, we're over 40 years past this, right? That doesn't count as a
Right.
spoiler anymore. But when the Death Star explodes, people, yeah, that was great. So do you get any of that kind of reaction from the students, or?
A lot of times, probably not. And I think
Yeah.
the sad thing is, even though George Lucas redid all of it to
Mm-hmm.
make the computer graphics CGI better, my students now are so used to a level that the original probably doesn't get. They love the story, they appreciate the story, they appreciate the humor. I think as the years have gone on, because I've probably done this for about 15 years now,
Mm-hmm.
I don't get as much of a reaction as I usually do. But it's funny because when I first tell kids we're going to watch a movie from 1977, they're like, really? And then I'll show them on YouTube the original movie trailers, and they're
Yeah.
like, this is going to be
This is gonna be
awful.
awful. Yeah, I'm
Yeah, but when
sure.
they watch it, they like the movie, but I think they are disappointed in the CGI aspect of it. And I said, you don't seem to understand, 45 years ago, this was mind
This was
blowing.
it.
But
Yeah.
yeah, they appreciate it for what it is. And, the goal is you're going to get some of them maybe one day to watch Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
And I've had kids before, hey, can we watch the next one now? Whether they're asking that because they really want to, or they just want to watch a movie in that class.
Well, take
That's
what you can
debatable.
get, right?
But it's just nice to introduce that to kids, and it's especially girls that haven't
Mm-hmm.
seen it. So it's especially nice to introduce it to the girls.
So speaking of girls and being a girl growing up loving Star Wars, did you ever feel like any outside pressure to like not really like Star Wars or to pick a character I mean, Leia is your favorite, obviously, but did you have any? I don't know. I guess because I keep hearing stories. Like there was a story a few years ago where someone tweeted a picture of their daughter that dressed up in a Star Wars costume, and everyone made fun of her. Oh, Star Wars is only for boys, and I never got that. I never understood that. But I'm curious if you felt any of that at all growing up.
I never felt anything. I think the funny thing is, none of my friends, none of the girls, I mean, we graduated high school together, the people
Mm-hmm.
I ran around with, none of them watched Star Wars. None of them knew anything about Star Wars, but they just didn't really care whether or not I liked it. So I
Okay.
liked it, and that was the end of it. And I never really felt any of that. And I think for me, growing up with Star Wars, I had a brother that was 3 years older than I was. He got all the Kenner toys, right?
Uh-huh.
So when I was a kid, from the time I was 3 on, we're going to play together. We're playing Star Wars.
Right.
So I
Right.
think a lot of my love for that just grew from playing with the toys and so many memories. I mean, I knew what Star Wars was before I actually saw a Star Wars movie.
Same here. The exact same thing. Had a neighbor kid who had everything. He had all the Star Wars toys, and it hooked me before I ever got to see any of the films in the theater. And so I get that 100%. It's amazing how like it's a given now that there's a toy connection with movies, and but it's not the same as it was then. It's amazing just how interconnected that was at the time, and it hooked our generation for sure. Right.
Right. And I think Star Wars now, it tries to play on like for girls, trying to get more female leads in there and everything. So girls are hooked on it more with the, the movies that have come out in the past 20 years. But when we were kids, there weren't many girls that played Star Wars that I knew of. I didn't know any.
Well, the only ones I knew of were my next door neighbors that I made play Star Wars. Right. So like we wouldn't have to negotiate. They would want to play Barbies and I would play Star Wars, and we would, you'd take turns, or you'd mesh the two together and just have a mashup. Yeah. That was about it.
There was no negotiating because my brother was older. Right. So we played what he wanted to play. I could negotiate sometimes which figures I wanted to be. I always got one of the Leia figures. That was a given. We had some duplicate figurines. So we had a live Obi-Wan Kenobi and dead Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Okay. Yeah.
So, there was negotiating.
Okay. Did you have a favorite toy other than Princess Leia? Because she didn't really have a ship. They didn't sell a blockade runner, did they?
No, they didn't. I really like from Empire Strikes Back, the ice base. It was cool because it had a little bridge on it. And you could press this button, it would like explode or, fall apart. So you could like put people on there and, I really like that one. I love setting that one up and putting it together. I don't know why that one sticks out more than anything else, but I love that one. I always wanted that base. Like I'd let my brother have the Death Star and I'd take that one.
Oh, wow. That was probably a favorite of ours too, with we had the turret, the gun on the turret with the, with the probe droid that you could, again, you push something and it popped up, and it was fun times. And we would always, I think I remember from a commercial, they had cotton balls out to where it looked like it, or maybe it was a Sears catalog photo shoot or something, cotton balls to make it look like it was snowing outside, snowing with a toy. So we always made sure to have I'm sure Mom was a fan of that, but emptying all the cotton ball bags to make sure it felt like we were playing in the snow. Fun memories. Pretty cool. Did you have a favorite quote, one that you wind up using all the time? Because I have a list of like 20.
I probably honestly don't. Okay. It's all good to me. I love, Chewbacca, being a fur ball. Yeah. Like I love all the little quips that Han Solo makes a lot of times.
Like who's scruffy looking? Yeah.
Yeah, right. I love all of that. But I don't say I have a favorite.
I found myself, I have to stop myself from saying it because I know no one ever gets it when I say it. But whenever I tell the kids, like, lock the doors, I always want to say, and hope they don't have blasters. But that no one's ever going to get that one at all. It doesn't work. But it's still, I do say it in my head. No one hears it. So if I ever tell you to lock the door, I'm going to say, and hope you don't have blasters, or hope they don't have blasters. Have you been able to keep up with any of the new, like from, the Clone Wars animated series, Rebels, all the way to the stuff that's been coming out now? Have you been able to keep up with any of that?
I've watched The Mandalorian. I enjoy that. That one's enjoyable. The movies that have come out in the past 20 years, honestly, my favorite is probably Rogue One.
That's, that's not uncommon, I think. Yeah.
But I was dumb when I watched it. I'm like, oh my goodness, we're going to find out how Princess Leia got the plans. This is so awesome. And then all the main characters start dying.
Yeah.
And we were at the movies with another couple, and the husband of this other couple is a huge Star Wars fan too. And I'm like, everybody's dying. He's like, they're all going to die. You never saw them in another movie. And I was just crushed. But I love the look of that movie. I got the feels of the old Star Wars movies when I saw Rogue One. So out of the most recent stuff, that's probably my favorite one.
I think I probably agree with that. It's the most like a war movie, right? Because everyone dies, right? And it's not a very happy movie. And it's one of those that my son Aiden, he watches that all the time. And it's one of those that I think I've maybe only watched one or two times since seeing it in the theater, because I love the movie. I just can't bring myself to watching it again. Right. Because well, it's sad, but also like what I don't know. I feel like it would lose some of the magic if I
Right.
watched it more, as many times as I watched A New Hope, which is strange because I think it's still just as magical. But I'm an odd creature, I guess. Is there anything else you want to share? Any other memories you would like to share?
I don't know. I guess for me, I like the fact I did appreciate. I know there's going to Disney World and doing the Star Wars stuff at Disney World. I did that a couple years ago, and
Cool.
my sister, who's a huge Star Wars fan too, we went together for this trip, and going to have a drink in the cantina was I walked in there and I just was speechless, and that's
Yeah.
really hard to do to an English teacher.
Yeah.
English teacher speechless, because that was just like walking right in. And then that whole Star Wars setup at Disney, that was for a huge fan. That was like the best.
Cool.
But one of the best experiences I've had on a trip. The Rise of the Resistance ride. My sister had been on it, and she wouldn't tell me anything about it, and it blew my mind.
Well, good for her.
She didn't tell me anything. She's like, I'm not going to tell you anything. We're just, because she goes, I want to see your reaction when you go through all of this. And when I went through it, I am not a selfie person. I was taking selfies of myself during during parts of that experience, I guess is what you call it. But for anyone that's a huge Star Wars fan, I would recommend at some point going down to Disney and spending the unreal amount of money that it costs to do the Star Wars things down there, because it is that was really a really great experience that I probably won't get again.
Right.
At least not until the kids are done with college.
Not anytime soon. Right. Yeah. We were in Hollywood Studios a year before it opened, and so we didn't get to, or less than a year, but they were still under construction. But even then, it was still it was a fun, immersive experience in the Star Wars things that we got to do. But I can only imagine that this.
If you ever go back, go to the cantina.
Okay.
It is like walking straight into the set. I've never paid so much for a drink in my life. But okay, I had to. Why not? So you're there.
What did you get?
I don't even remember the name of it. They had like all weird names for stuff. It was blue.
I was going to say, did they have blue milk there? Or
yeah,
green milk?
They did. Mine wasn't that though. It was something else. I think. I don't even. I mean, it was. All I know is I was like, oh, okay, I'm here. I got to do this.
Right. I mean, it's only money, first of all, right? And I'm never going to have this experience again. You might as well do all.
Well, and I was lucky in that trip. That trip, honestly, that was a birthday present from my sister. Oh. So that was
even better. Even better.
Yeah.
That's a fun memory to have for sure.
So,
cool.
But I think just Star Wars in general, just that storyline, no matter how you look at it, as a teacher, I always think it's classic. It's never going to go out of style. You can watch that show 50 years from now and just plot, storyline, all of that. It's going to stand up to the test of time. And as a kid who grew up immersed in it with the toys, and everything, I think those of us of our generation had an experience I don't feel kids get so much now with everything that's out there, because you couldn't just turn on the TV and watch it whenever you wanted. You had to play with those toys, and that was it. You couldn't just go see the movie or, stream it live, stream it on your TV. You had to wait for the next one to come out. And in the meantime, you had those toys, and I just think we were very lucky to be kids when we were kids and to be able to experience that, because my kids, they like Star Wars, but they didn't experience Star Wars like I experienced.
Right. Yes, I agree. I get it 100%. And the imagination that you're encouraging with all that play, is something that is probably a little missed now, right?
Right.
But yeah, I get it. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I distinctly remember the moment when I was sitting in Mr. Hughes's class in high school English. I believe I was a junior at the time, and he was talking about epics and tragedies and all these grand themes from English literature. And I remember like my face literally lit up when I saw all the pieces come together in my head, and I realized that the original Star Wars trilogy, again, that was the only trilogy we had at the time. So the Star Wars trilogy, the Skywalker saga, was really the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker. It completely revolutionized my approach to watching the films. It was just completely eye-opening. Of course, I already knew that it was an epic as well. I followed all of the rules of an epic adventure, and um, it was just it was just really cool. And it was a really, really interesting way. Well, it was just really cool. And it really made me appreciate the classics a whole lot more. So kudos to Lori for continuing to follow in that mold and to inspire a new generation, not only to fall in love with Star Wars, but to fall in love with the classics as well, and with storytelling, because we all have stories to tell, and we all have this shared experience, and encouraging others to tell that story is just a pretty great thing. So thank you for all you do, Lori. That's all for today's edition of the Matt Dan Toddcast. Be sure to subscribe on any of the platforms that you're listening from, because you don't want to miss any more episodes of the Matt Dan Toddcast. This has been the Matt Dan Toddcast. Thanks for listening.